What we are seeing today is one of the most brutal character assassinations in the history of congressional hearings, but it isn't based on policy. It's based on a trail of broken oaths and a past that is finally catching up. This isn't just a routine confirmation hearing, it is a full-scale interrogation into the personal and professional conduct of Pete Hegseth. We are witnessing a moment where the warrior image promoted on television is being methodically dismantled by a record of settlements, non-disclosure agreements, and allegations that range from workplace intoxication to sexual harassment. This is a breakdown of judgment at the highest level of government. The atmosphere in this room is suffocatingly tense. Notice the body language. Hegseth is sitting rigidly, his hands likely out of sight, but his facial expressions tell the story. He frequently looks down or shifts in his seat when the questions move from his military record to his marital history. The senator, on the other hand, is leaning into the microphone, using a calm but lethal precision. When Hegseth is confronted with the timeline of his second and third marriages, his go-to defense is to pivot to his faith. He uses the phrase "child of God" and mentions redemption through Jesus Christ as a linguistic shield, trying to move the conversation from a legal and ethical assessment to a spiritual one. It's a fascinating, if transparent, attempt to recalibrate the moral compass of the room. One of the most shocking moments in this video is the discussion regarding the 2017 Monterey Incident. While Hegseth repeatedly uses the word cleared, the senator masterfully redefines that term by pointing out that a criminal investigation led to a private cash settlement and a non-disclosure agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Hegseth. I'm looking forward to this opportunity to talk. I want to return to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime. That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you were completely cleared?
Senator,
how is that a complete clear?
Senator, the child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth. And she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges. Well, no, fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this amazing woman behind me.
You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel in October 2017. You said it was consensual, isn't that correct?
Anything.
You've admitted that it was consensual, and you were still married, and you just had a child by another woman.
Again,
how do you explain your judgment?
Completely false charges against me. Fully investigated, and I was completely clear.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
It was a false claim then and a false claim now.
If it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
That was a false claim.
So you're
talking about a hypothetical.
So you can't tell me whether someone who has committed a sexual assault is disqualified from being Secretary of Defense?
Senator, I know in my instance, and I'm talking about my instance only, it was a false claim.
But you acknowledge that you cheated on your wife and that you cheated on the woman by whom you had just fathered a child. You have admitted that.
I will allow your words to speak for themselves.
You're not retracting that today. That's good. I assume that in each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you?
Senator, as I've acknowledged to everyone in this committee, I'm not a perfect person, not claiming to be.
But no, I just asked a simple question. You've taken an oath like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense in all of your weddings to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct?
I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
In finalizing divorces from your first and second wives, were there non-disclosure agreements in connection with those divorces?
Senator, not that I'm aware of.
If there were, would you agree to release those first and second wives from any confidentiality agreement?
Senator, it's not something I'm aware of.
But if there were, you would agree to release them from a confidentiality agreement.
Senator, that's not my responsibility.
Did you ever engage in any acts of physical violence against any of your wives?
Senator, absolutely not.
But you would agree with me that if someone had committed physical violence against a spouse, that would be disqualifying to serve as Secretary of Defense, correct?
Senator, absolutely not have I ever done that.
You would agree that that would be a disqualifying offense, would you not?
Senator, you're talking about a hypothetical.
I don't think it's a hypothetical. Violence against spouses occurs every day. And if you as a leader are not capable of saying that physical violence against a spouse should be a disqualifying fact for being Secretary of the most powerful nation in the world, you're demonstrating an astonishing lack of judgment. The incident in Monterey led to a criminal charge, a criminal investigation, a private settlement, and a cash payment to the woman who filed the complaint. And there was also a non-disclosure agreement, correct?
It was a confidential settlement agreement off of a nuisance lawsuit.
Right. During an interview, you claimed that you settled the matter because you were worried that if it became public, it might hurt your career. Do you maintain that you were blackmailed?
Senator, I maintain that false claims were made against me. And ultimately,
your attorney
those
used
false
the
claims,
frame,
I have the opportunity to attest my innocence in those false claims.
In the world of law enforcement and high-level security clearances, a confidential settlement is almost never seen as being completely cleared. It's seen as a liability. But the real smoking gun here is the revelation that Hegseth allegedly hid this entire event from President Trump's transition team. This speaks to a fundamental lack of candor. If you can't be honest with the man who is nominating you for the most powerful military position in the world, who can you be honest with? But the personal drama is only the beginning. The most explosive part of this testimony involves a direct confrontation about Hegseth's workplace behavior, including allegations involving alcohol in a strip club that left his own colleagues stunned. Keep watching to see how the senator drops a final, devastating name into the record that leaves Hegseth virtually speechless. Before we get into the second half of this breakdown, I need to speak to you directly. If you want to see through the spin and get a professional, intelligent analysis of the political maneuvers happening in 2026, you need to be part of this channel. We don't just give you the sound bites, we give you the context. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and like this video. It's the only way to ensure that this kind of deep dive, independent reporting survives the algorithm. Your support means we keep looking for the truth in these transcripts.
But you didn't reveal any of this to President Trump or the transition team as they were considering you to be nominated for Secretary of Defense. You didn't reveal the action. You didn't reveal the criminal complaint. You didn't reveal the criminal investigation. You didn't reveal the settlement. You didn't reveal the cash payment. Why didn't you inform the commander-in-chief and the transition team of this very relevant event?
Senator, I've appreciated every part of the process with the transition team. They have been open and honest with me. We've had great conversations between the two of us, and I appreciate the opportunity that President-elect Trump has given me.
You chose not to reveal this, right? Because you knew it would hurt your chances. So you chose not to reveal this really important thing to the commander-in-chief and the transition team because you were worried about your chances rather than trying to be candid with the future president of the United States. Are there any other important facts that you chose not to reveal to the president-elect and his team as they were considering you to be Secretary of Defense?
Senator, I sit here before you an open book, as everyone who's watched this process.
With multiple non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements tying the hands of many people who would like to comment to us. Much has been made of your workplace behavior as a leader of nonprofit veterans organizations and as a Fox News contributor. Were you fired from either of the leadership positions with the nonprofits?
I was the leader. I was the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America and the executive director of Vets for Freedom.
Were you fired from either of them?
And I was never fired from a veterans organization.
Do you have non-disclosure agreements with either of those organizations?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator.
Many of your work colleagues have said that you show up for work under the influence of alcohol or drunk. I know you've denied that, but you would agree with me, right, that if that was the case, that would be disqualifying for somebody to be Secretary of Defense.
Senator, those are all anonymous false claims, and the totality
they're not anonymous.
The letters on the record here.
They're not anonymous.
On the record, people
we've seen records with names
Vets
attached
for Freedom,
to them.
Concerned Vets for America, and Fox News attributing to me working hard every day on behalf
One of
my
your
mission.
colleagues said that you got drunk at an event at a bar and chanted, "Kill all Muslims." Another colleague, not anonymous, we have this, said that you took coworkers to a strip club. You were drunk, you tried to dance with strippers, you had to be held off the stage, and one of your employees in that event filed a sexual harassment charge as a result of it. Now, I know you deny these things, but isn't that the kind of behavior that, if true, would be disqualifying for somebody to be Secretary of Defense?
Senator, anonymous false charges.
They're not anonymous. And I'll just conclude and say this to the chairman. You claim that this was all anonymous. We have seen records with names attached to all of these, including the name of your own mother. So don't make this into some anonymous press thing. We have seen multiple names of colleagues consistently throughout your career that have talked about your abusive actions,
Chairman, I
attitudes,
think he's
words,
over
and
his time.
statements.
He's way over his time.
I now yield.
Now, let's talk about the allegations regarding alcohol and workplace conduct. This is where the hearing moves from personal moral failings to professional disqualification. The senator brings up specific non-anonymous letters from Hegseth's time at Concerned Veterans for America and Fox News. We are talking about reports of being under the influence at work, chanting "Kill all Muslims" at a bar, and an incident at a strip club that resulted in a sexual harassment charge. Hegseth's response is to dismiss these as anonymous false charges, but the senator catches him in a direct lie. These aren't anonymous, they are records with names attached. The loophole Hegseth tries to live in is the idea that because he wasn't fired, he has a clean record. But the senator points out the culture of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, that surrounds him. This is a recurring theme we see in cases of powerful men, from the Epstein files to modern political scandals, where money and legal paperwork are used to silence the witnesses. By refusing to agree to release his ex-wives or former employees from these NDAs, Hegseth is essentially admitting that there is a version of the truth he doesn't want the public to hear. Perhaps the most shocking part of the entire exchange is when the senator mentions that the records of his abusive actions include testimony from Hegseth's own mother. That is a rare and devastating moment in a confirmation hearing. It shifts the narrative from partisan attack to character consensus. We have to ask, can a man who allegedly can't manage his own conduct in a bar or a nonprofit office manage the entire United States military? The Secretary of Defense oversees millions of men and women and a $1 trillion budget. If the 1811 standards for agents include integrity and physical discipline, shouldn't the man at the top be held to at least the same standard? Thanks for joining us for this analysis on the Daily Report. We're going to be tracking the fallout of this testimony and the inevitable response from the White House. Make sure you've liked the video and shared your thoughts below. Is this a political hit job, or is Hegseth truly a national security risk? See you in the next one.